Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Aerial Property Advisors, Dime Community Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance. Additional funding has been provided by AKA Hotels Corman Communities, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Avison Young, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, JP Morgan Chase, Citizens Bank, Cohen Equities, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Pulcinelli, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Knackle Group at Cushman & Wakefield, the Merinkoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
New York City. Everybody wants to live in New York City. Where can they live? What are they finding? What's the opportunities? Are rents going down? So today I've assembled this group of real estate leaders, professionals, to provide their insight on the market. My guests include Jeffrey Levine, who is the chairman and CEO of Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, and Clinton Management. Need a banker for this type of show. I have Kirk Lloyd, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Lending Officer for the Dime Community Bank. Then I have a guy who's a combination banker and a real estate leader. We have Joseph Pistilli, who is the Chairman and CEO of Pistilli Realty Group and the Chairman of the Board of First Central Savings Bank. You got the banker, you got the developer, you have the owner. You need the person who's selling the property. We have Peter Vonderay, who's the Senior Vice President of Markets in Millichap. So I did a show a couple weeks ago, and I had a couple of investment sales brokers together, which is like something that you normally don't want to do because they normally, it's like, $1 million listing. They all tell you what the price should be. So, but they did all make the comment that investors from around the world and everybody are looking at the multifamily market. Do you see that?
100%. That when we look at our transactions, probably 40% of the equity is actually coming from overseas. And I think we've been existing in this world, and this has been going on really, for several years, that the worse things are in other places, the more the money gets squeezed into New York as a safe haven. And of the asset classes, you're looking at multifamily to be, one of the safer ones. So I would concur with that.
You've been involved originally in Queens. Now we're going to another borough. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts about the Bronx? Because then I'm going to ask Jeff about his thoughts.
I think like in any real estate transaction, Mike, you buy low hoping that that real estate or that investment's going to go up. I happen to think that the Bronx does have some future in it. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same play that plays out in Queens, played out in Brooklyn, played out in Manhattan, But I think that out of the 5 boroughs, I think the Bronx does have the opportunity where rents can go up. I think there's a lot of preferential rent versus maximum legal rent, and I think that window or that is a window of opportunity. I think that's what people are buying today.
Jeff, you've been involved with it with Bronx. You're building affordable housing in the Bronx, but today there are people talking about building market rate housing in the Bronx. What's your thoughts about the Bronx for all different types of residential classes?
I think the Bronx is a wonderful place to live. I think it has some great features. I think that if you are near subway transportation in the Bronx, it's a wonderful place for working class people to live and commute to work. But I question the level of rents that are necessary in order to do market rate housing in the Bronx at this time in the cycle, in consideration of all the other housing opportunities for rental in places like downtown Brooklyn, Long Island City, where there's an abundance of product, where the supply is dwarfed, where the demand is dwarfed by the supply, and there are opportunities to rent at numbers that you really can't afford to build for yet.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you're saying if somebody wanted to rent an apartment for the same price, for the convenience of being in Long Island City or downtown Brooklyn, they could pay the same amount of rent in the Bronx?
Well, last I learned, it costs as much to build in the Bronx as it does in Brooklyn and Queens. So the only differential really is the cost of the land. And in many cases, on the larger projects in the Bronx, the cost of the land is not so significantly cheaper than some other comparables in outer parts of Brooklyn and Queens.
So here's a question for the two of you, two are owners over here. Is it becoming a landlord's market or is it a tenant's market? Is the tenant being able to get a free month of rent, some concession, or is there a negotiation? What are you seeing?
It's unquestionably a tenant's market. With the abundance of product that is being delivered to the rental markets in downtown Brooklyn, in Long Island City, in even Williamsburg at this point, there are a number of options for all renters. And when you have large projects, as many of them are, in order to fill them up over a reasonable cycle of a new building, if you have 300 or 400 or 500 units, you have to be aggressive. And aggressive means you have to give 1 or 2 months concession depending upon the price point at which you are starting. So yeah, it is unquestionably in all markets today, both condo and rental, a buyer's or a tenant's market.
How do you as a bank underwrite this when you hear comments from Mr. Levine in this way?
Well, from a lender's perspective, with so much demand for apartments, you have to be careful how much you're going to lend to a developer. Price, loan per unit, square foot, rent per square foot. You have to take that in consideration so that when the market does pull back, and eventually it will, those guys will have enough cash flow to pay the debt.
You've stayed predominantly in Queens and now a little bit in the Bronx. Where do you see opportunities? Because, developers and real estate owners look at different areas for opportunities.
Well, I think the comment to build off of what Jeff was talking about, I think it's a town by town situation, and I think if you look at certain areas and whatever borough it's in, it's going to demand a certain price. It's going to have a different tenant that's looking for a different type of property. So I think when we're talking about new construction or construction that's fairly new, I think that falls into a completely different box. I think when we're talking about the housing stock, the existing housing stock that's in the Bronx, and I think that's kind of where the dime is there, meat and potatoes type of blending in the Bronx. I think the difference there is that if you have a property in, let's call it an existing 1925, 1940 building in Queens, and let's say that the one bedroom in that building or in that area is going to rent for $1,700, $1,800, $1,500, $1,700, $1,800, depending on what you have in there and where it is. That same unit and that same type of building in an area in the Bronx is renting today between $900 and $1,100. It has the opportunity and the potential, if you're delivering a better product, a cleaner product and you're looking at asset quality or to improve asset quality, then I think you can get in that neighborhood. You could definitely bring that same apartment that in Queens is going for 17 or 1800. That may be ongoing on the downside, but you may be taking a cut in rent to begin to rent these apartments.
But for the tenant purposes, if I was a potential tenant watching this show, I'd say, you know what? It's nice to be in Astoria. It may be nice to be in Williamsburg, but if I really want to get my best buck for the deal for the buck, I should go to the Bronx.
That's, well,
Okay, I mean, if I can get something with transportation,
But the
I don't
decision
care.
is not just a decision about finance and money. There's a quality of life decision. And there are people who want to live in different neighborhoods, whether it's millennials, where they can have their cyber cafes and their coffee shops and their Whole Foods. This is an important part of the decision-making process.
that's very true.
Others, where the finance trumps the quality of life or the standard of living, they may choose to move to neighborhoods where the price is better.
But
Yeah.
that's very true, Jeff. But if I may just make a comment on that, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that the world today and people today are looking for those attributes of a neighborhood. But I think if we just take a step back, going back into the borough of the Bronx for a moment, and why is it different today? Why is it changing and why is it different? It is changing. And the same people that were born there and live there have a community. They have a tie to that community, whether it's an ethnic tie, a religious tie, whatever tie there is. It is a community today that's being redeveloped to people who exist there. So they want a better place to live. They may want the same cafes that are in Brooklyn or coffee shops.
I
or-
think the gentrification is taking place more in the inward section of Upper Manhattan over there, and I do believe the gentrification. Now, I'll ask Peter this question. 10 years ago, people would say Prospect Heights. I didn't want to be in Prospect Heights. It was a difficult neighborhood. It was a little rough neighborhood going out at night. Now people are saying Prospect Heights, something near the park, is highly desirable. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. You've seen it in so many of the emerging neighborhoods, where, as 10 years ago, renters only had maybe 2 or 3 of picks of those types of neighborhoods, and now they have 7, 8, and 9. I mean, it goes on. But what we see from the investor standpoint about what you guys were talking about is, when you're talking about buying these buildings in the Bronx, you're hitting a part of the market that is undersupplied, the affordable part. The part that's still regulated. You're going to buy a building that's 100% regulated or mainly regulated, and there's no headwinds on the rents in that category. Every time you turn a unit, you rent it right away with the 18% increase, maybe with the pref, so there's upside. Whereas on the finished, that's where we're seeing the headwinds on rents. Do you have 1 month concession? Do you have 2 months concession, depending on the neighborhood? We're starting to see some of that burn off in Manhattan now. In Brooklyn, you still have some runway on that.
I know that the Dime has done certain deals in areas, which are in transition, and also in areas that the units have been increased in size, for development. How do you look at taking an apartment which was a studio or a 1-bedroom and making it a 3?
It's very common now for a lot of developers. They do that. If I can get a studio and turn it into a 1-bedroom and get an extra $300 more in rent. We do look at, obviously, the rents, but location and, all the infrastructure that's nearby for these renters. Most of them are young, and they're willing to have 2 and 3 people live in there. They don't spend much time in the apartment. It's a kitchenette at best. They're working or, they're having fun, and they come back and they sleep there. So, it is difficult because more and more it's happening, but, we try to do our best and not leverage up.
If I could talk about what's happening in the residential markets in what we'll call emerging areas, much as Peter said earlier, where New York City, as compared to many of the other capital cities of the world, is the tallest short person in the room. We have an economy and an appeal that transcends many other parts of the world. So people are coming here on that basis. But you go a step further. If you look at what's happening in our local real estate world, you see what they call the retail apocalypse. You see an abundance of office buildings being created as a result of the financing booms, whether it's down at the World Trade Center area or the West Side Yards or Vanderbilt. So you have this abundance of office space coming. And people are saying, well, these markets are being a little bit pressured with product. Let's look at the residential markets, and the residential opportunity to buyers of multifamily seem to be where you may have upside because it's a low price point in the Bronx or in Staten Island, and people are aggressively buying there, forcing up the prices, forcing down the cap rates. That's all great, but if in fact there is a hiccup in the economy and these projections don't work, you might see these people who are zealously buying in some of these emerging communities feel pain.
With regard to Staten Island, they talk about the four boroughs, they don't talk about the fifth borough over there. How do you look at Staten Island? Because it's restricted because of transportation. I mean, you have a ferry and you have a bridge. So those are the difficulties over here.
We don't do much lending in Staten Island, just for the same exact reasons. It's mostly residential. There's not much apartments. There's more commercial, strip centers, but it's just not worth it, to lend.
Well, be careful how you disparage Staten Island. I'm building there. We're doing.
But you're building a specific different type of product. It's not a traditional. What are you building?
We're building senior housing with subsidy from the city. There is great demand for this product there.
Yep, that's.
And the city has invested an extremely large amount of money in Staten Island, whether it be is in cooperation with this Staten Island Wheel project or the off-retail outlets which are planned there. But there's a lot of work, so the outcome is yet to be seen, but there's reason for optimism.
What is the senior housing you're building in Staten Island?
We are building 55 and older low-income housing, for which there is great demand. Obviously, it requires subsidy. Obviously, it requires new building to build the type of units that are right for seniors.
What is the rent for an apartment for somebody?
Well, we will be renting at essentially 60% of AMI. AMI
For my
today,
audience, explain.
60% of AMI for a senior is different than it is for a family. A senior, because they no longer have the full cost of a full life, can spend up to 80% of their income on their housing. So if AMI is approximately $60,000, okay, and a senior can spend 80% of that on their housing, that's $48,000. So the housing, 1/3 of that is $16,000. So you could essentially be paying $1,200–1,300 a month.
You in Staten Island, what's your thoughts?
I don't know much about Staten Island. I've never ventured out into the borough for a lot of the reasons that are being spoken about here today.
Peter, have you sold anything?
No.
So,
Yeah.
But getting back to something Joe said earlier, people live in different places for different reasons at different times. Young people flocked to Murray Hill for the bars on 3rd Avenue years ago. Staten Island offers a different way of life. The Bronx offers good commutation with wonderful community support in areas of social services, as well as facilities like the New York Botanical Gardens, where I'm working to do some affordable housing. So you have great assets up there.
part of the question today with Williamsburg is the difficulty that may take place with the L train. What do you see happening?
Okay, so I am a real estate developer. By definition, that means I'm a cockeyed optimist. In as much as I own and operate over 2,000 units of housing on the Williamsburg waterfront on the north side, and the ferry pier was part of my zoning and I built, I believe that when the city improves the L train tunnel in 2019, that the combination of enhanced ferry service and the bulk of my project, where I will be running shuttle buses to the J, M, and Z down on Broadway to the south and to the G in the north, I will get my residents on a free shuttle to the subway stops faster than they will be able to walk to the L train on North 7th, and I believe they will regret it when the L train comes back.
Well, you also have to think, in those markets, you also have to think that, the tenancy is also transitioning from, living in Brooklyn to also working in Brooklyn. And many of them, this is, look, all over the city, the ride-sharing services have a big impact on you know, if you're sharing a ride and it's $5 and it's only $2 more than taking the subway and they pick you up on your corner, you know, that makes a big difference. So I don't know that the impact will be as much as everyone is.
I've also pointed out that the residents who came to Williamsburg originally for its old neighborhood character will not miss the day trippers coming over from the city to enjoy what Williamsburg offers.
Okay, today there's discussions about Greenpoint, Bushwick, Ridgewood as possible emerging neighborhoods. As a investment sales professional, are you seeing more units, more interest in that market? Are you looking out there in Ridgewood? I mean, you've been...
I have. We have a very large piece in Greenpoint. We purchased a very long time ago. It was actually built by Pratt, the founder and builder of Pratt Institute. It's a very large city block right off of Front and right off the waterfront.
So would you convert that?
I don't think that I could. I think because of the historical nature that it has. But I don't see a reason to convert. And I go back to this. I've developed myself, as Jeff has, the co-ops and condos. I've built office buildings out of the ground. Some were alternations from Steinway Piano and Electric Corporation. I've built luxury homes in nice areas of Queens. But I think at the end of the day, I think I like to stick what I know best, and I think that I still believe that the rental market today is a necessity. Well, I'll go back to the Bronx for a moment, only because I think there that as much as I do believe it's not an eclectic neighborhood yet, and I do believe that it will begin to change. I think it will change. I think there's an evolution that will change, where it's again, I don't believe it'll happen the same way it happened in Queens or even in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, we have to understand, Brooklyn has a housing stock that is a brownstone house. You has a 6-family home, so you can be a part of America. You can own a 6-family house. You can own a 4-family house or a 3-family brownstone, and by that happening, those brownstones that were abandoned, they were drug infested, some of them, began to turn block by block, block by block, and personal ownership, personal wealth was created in those neighborhoods. And that began to move the neighborhoods in a different direction. When you look at the Bronx, with the exception of certain neighborhoods, they're basically 5, 4-story, 6-story walk-ups. The architecture is a bulk architectural design. It's a big building, a big apartment living. So personal wealth or personal ownership is very difficult to obtain in neighborhoods like that. So you, and a lot of the people, once, like I said earlier, the community itself lives there and lives there for a long time, where mom may live in 1A, Jane will live in 1B, an aunt and uncle may live in 1C, and before you know it, a good part and percentage of the building or the block is really occupied by family.
A lot of development is taking place right now, residential rental and condo in Yonkers and New Rochelle. Any thoughts about that market?
Yeah, I mean, I go buy it, but we stick to the boroughs mainly.
I'm in White Plains. We have nice size properties in White Plains itself. We bought a little bit further than where the actual hub is. I think White Plains is good. I think
Jeff?
Well, I can tell you, I have already seen, even amongst people who I work with, where younger people are buying homes in places like Yonkers, New Rochelle, and I think that's the canary in the coal mine, that once you see these younger people buying homes there, that the wave of people who see it as a housing opportunity but may not be able to afford a home might be interested in buying a condo or co-op or renting at the transportation-oriented development that exists up there.
Yes.
So the trains are the key, the commutation to employment is the key, and I think that there are opportunities as you go north as well as east to Long Island.
Now, you live out Long Island, and the rental apartment building market is doing great out there.
Yeah, recently in Mineola is a new project, a couple new projects there.
Mineola, Rockville
Farmingdale,
Center.
Rockville Center. Again, near the train line, you know, where it's easy transportation into the city if you work and back.
How does the dime look at financing in Westchester, Yonkers, and Long Island?
I mean, there is housing stock there. We have a very little percentage, you know, in terms of the portfolio that we lend up there. You know, just the boroughs really.
What about you in Long Island?
Long Island, I have professional office space in Long Island. I think that it's tough to operate on the island. The island has many small towns. It has a mayor for each town. It has the chief of firemen for each town. And I think payroll and expenses of operating real estate on the island is...
No, it's not just operating real estate. You sit on the head. All the townships, all the taxation. The death knell of Long Island has been real estate taxes on residential property. And until that's addressed, and it can be addressed in some of these new developments in the form of pilots, similar to the way the tax abatements in New York City have addressed the excess taxation of residential property that is to be built in New York City. But it's a pervasive issue in all real estate development.
I also think Long Island could probably solve some of its problem if they would allow real estate developers. I'm going to go to the real estate developer, real estate converter for a moment. It's a little bit different than the traditional people, a little bit along the lines of what we do, of what we've done. I think if the island would allow certain buildings, certain communities, if you have a building that's 50% vacant, I don't happen to have that, but there are buildings on the island that are hitting 25, 30, 40% vacancy rates on their professional space. They should allow those buildings to at least have the option to convert them to
What has
residential
happened right
use.
now in New Jersey and in Westchester, they have approved the rezoning of office buildings to be converted to residential.
Absolutely, they
Okay,
should do that.
because of the need that you don't need a pink elephant sitting there with no tenants at all, which is going to be taken over by the bank.
Right.
And for example, at Short Hills Mall, an office building was converted by RXR into residential, and numerous Mack-Cali properties in
Right.
New Jersey
Right.
have been converted, and I think that's the opportunity.
And I think places like Long Island and with small townships like that, most of the apartments, if there are any apartments for rent, are in a one-family home.
Right.
And they need, young people need a place to start. They need
Look,
an apartment.
I mean, the biggest problem with Long Island is the housing of the millenniums and next generation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why they lose the population, because there's not enough. There may be jobs out there, but there's not affordable housing. So in essence, we're saying that the rental market seems good all over the city, except, and there's a question of the lack of transportation in Staten Island, but whatever is there is happening. As an example, my wife used to be in the employment business, and the people she placed from Staten Island, many of them used to work lower Manhattan because of the transportation availability. So the accessibility of transportation is key. That's why all the boroughs are doing well.
Yep.
The fact that the city is safer is doing well, and I think we're in a positive mood. I'd like to thank Jeff, Kirk, Joe, and Peter, and I'll see you next week.